Hello everyone, welcome to the Green Man channel. Hope you're all doing good and well. Now, it never feels quite the same doing a Songs of the Year countdown as it does doing an Albums of the Year countdown, and I'll explain. And it's because albums are kind of the body of work, the full body of work of an artist, and they are how the artist intended you to listen to their work. Individual tracks or songs taken out of the context of the album maybe don't always feel quite the same, particularly with prog and that kind of thing, maybe aren't quite the same, don't have the same impact necessarily as they do on their own, or as they do in an album. But the thing is that there are just sometimes those tracks that really do stand out above all the rest perhaps, or they're the tracks that made you decide to buy the album, whether it was downloading it, whether it was ordering the CD or the vinyl. There may have been that one track that clinched the deal for you, that made that decision for you that you were going to go out, you were going to buy this album, or you were going to, because of this track, it was that in that moment you said, right, that's it, I'm parting with my hard-earned money, that's the end of it, I'm going for this album. And all these tracks here that I've listed are those kind of tracks. They're the ones that I think made me think, you know what, I think I'm going to buy this album. And I would say most of these are from my Albums of the Year list, but not all of them. So I like to think I've thrown in a few new tracks here just to keep things fresh and, not go over the same ground too much if I can possibly avoid doing so, as, just wanted to throw in a few new ones. So coming in at number 20, first up is AFI's Begging for Trouble. And this is an example of a track where, I just found that it's the one I went back to the most from this album. It wasn't an album that I actually liked that much, to be quite honest with you. I mean, it was okay. I found it quite an easy listen, but it's not one that I'd rush to listen to again in a hurry. But this song has done a lot of plays on my, my iTunes. I've been back to this one an awful lot. It has that sort of nostalgic feel to it, I think, that is really appealing. It's very quickly gets into the chorus on this track. It's not a track that is meant to be anything super complicated. It's all about the feel, I think, this track, and it goes out to achieve what it does, and it does it very, very well. That's Begging for Trouble by AFI. And I really recommend it if you like kind of post-punk or stuff that sounds a little bit like it's just got that nostalgic vibe to it. Coming in at number 19 is ENSLAVED's Intermezzo 2, The Navigator, off their recent EP Caravans to the Outer Worlds. And I just love the rhythm in this track. It takes me back to the kind of rhythms ENSLAVED did on albums like Below the Lights, maybe. It's kind of... It just has that slightly, that time signature, that slightly unusual time signature, and I just love the rhythm on this particular ENSLAVED track. I mean, again, this is actually an example of a track I think it works better with the build-up to it, but it's definitely one of my favourite tracks of 2021, and I've been back to that one quite a bit. Coming at number 18 is Burning Witches with 9 Worlds. A really cool track, really classic kind of Judas Priest style to this track, particularly. The rhythm does sound like it could be a Judas Priest's rhythm. And as I mentioned in my countdown, in my albums countdown, Larissa Ernst's guitar work and guitar solos are, again, very much apparent in this track. And really particularly enjoyed this one on that album. 9 Worlds is one that I regularly revisit. Coming in at 17 is VOLA's 24 Light Years. One of the more kind of prog rock tracks on this album, very light, very soft, very sort of a bit Porcupine Tree-esque. It's kind of it's just one of those really understated, mellow, really beautifully written and delivered tracks. I think thoroughly enjoyed this one, and it's a nice, from the rest of that album, which is pretty heavy on the gent side. It's a really good change, and it works, I think, extremely well on their Witness album. Great song. Coming in at 16 is Friction by OMNIUM GATHERUM. Friction's from another album which I wasn't actually, all that enamoured by, but this song, Friction by OMNIUM GATHERUM, is terrific, and it is, for me, it's the real standout from that album. Kind of has a classic heavy OMNIUM GATHERUM kind of vibe, but towards the end you get some genius work from me. One of the kind of, for me, he's a really great lead guitarist, Marcus Van Haller, and he shows why towards the end of this track. Even if you don't listen to this whole album, I mean, you probably should listen to the whole album, I guess, but I wasn't that one over by it. But this track in particular is one that I particularly enjoy and still go back to, even if I'm not, not so big on the whole album. Coming in at 15 is Fear Factory's Fuel Injected Suicide Machine, which takes me back to their obsolete days, the kind of late 90s, because it's got that mix of the really brutal verses combined with the lovely kind of melodic, clean choruses that are sung by Burton C. Bell, and just has what I love about Fear Factory throughout this entire track, and one that, just as I say, harks back to those old days. Fear Factory for me, loved it. Number 14 is Mediator by Jinjer. This was the closing track on their most recent album, Wallflowers. Possibly one of the, even though it was a brutal album, this is one of the more brutal tracks and more aggressive tracks on the album as well. Really fast, relentless. The changes, though, they're all perfect for me. Just fantastic work from all the instrumentalists and Tatiana all together. A great song, and yeah, I think that's all I have to say about Mediator. It's just a really good way to finish that album off. Coming in at 13 is Join the Dead by ALUSTRIUM, or ALUSTRIUM. I've got to learn how to pronounce some of these band names properly. So Join the Dead is, it's a riff fest. It's an absolute riff fest all the way through. Kind of rapid tempo kind of riff to begin with that kind of stops and starts a little bit because they throw in this sort of slightly interesting chord to break up the, each bar, if you like, of music. I just love this particular song by ALUSTRIUM. It gets better and better as it goes through. You get this really cool drum beat and builds up the kind of breakdown finish you get towards the end of the track as well. It's definitely one of my favourites from 2021, that one. Number 12 is Hell on Earth by Iron Maiden, the legendary Iron Maiden, and Senjutsu, an album I gave a fairly modest score to. I think I gave it a 7 out of 10. I know that's sacrilegious if you're a big Senjutsu fan, but I would not argue with you about Hell on Earth being a really awesome track from them this time. Cool, gentle build up, and for some it maybe it takes a while to get to the meat of this track, I guess, but it's worth the wait when I think Bruce starts singing those really good verses. The lead guitars in this and the melody is excellent as well. I think for me it's one of the best Maiden songs I've heard in recent years, maybe even since I don't know, maybe since kind of some of their middle 2000s albums. I just love this song. It's just fantastic, and it is one of those which is actually worth the full 11 minutes of listening time. It's, as I say, great leads all the way through, and Bruce is on absolute top form in Hell on Earth. Love that song. Almost made me think of the times, I would listen to Seventh Son and just forget the world. Seventh Son, it had almost that magic Seventh Son effect, which I love. Number 11, we're going to change now genre, as I did with my albums countdown a bit here, going back to Japanese Breakfast again, and their track Be Sweet, which is definitely that track which evokes a feel of classic 1980s pop. That's what I'm talking about here. Madonna, Cyndi Lauper, all that stuff, but it's done extremely well, and the entire song, if you really listen to it, it's a really quite cleverly done little track with all the touches and the little musical nuances from keyboards and the instruments that they use in this track are done really cleverly, and honestly, Be Sweet, if there was a favourite pop track of mine of the year, it would probably be this one. Although I guess Japanese Breakfast are kind of known a bit as an indie rock kind of shoegazy sort of band, I think, but this one track just stood out, really stood out to me. It's just being one of those that, put you in a good mood, maybe, if you need that. Maybe you don't. But anyway, next track on my list, now we're going complete shift, complete U-turn back into metal. Space Chasers, The Immortals. What an awesome, awesome, chunky, thrashy track this is. Great changes throughout. Pretty cool, you know, changes in tempo towards the end to emphasize that final riff as it comes to an end, with some great thrashy solos as well. Good shredding. This undoubtedly, probably, you know, I think in this list it's actually my favorite thrash song of the year. Like I said, Space Chaser released for me one of the best thrash albums of the year. Absolutely loved it. Coming in, number 9, Days Before the World Wept by The Agonist. This was off their EP, Days Before the World Wept. And it's a real kind of, the verses have that Meshuggah bleed kind of rhythm to them, you know, really sort of chum through, really, really good stuff. Vicky's vocals shine here pretty well as well, I think, you know, sort of, you know, she's singing those clean, that really quite big chorus that she sings, and repeats towards the end with, you know, incredibly fast, I think the blast beats towards the end and everything, just a great finish to that particular song. So that's The Agonist, Days Before the World Wept, at number 9. Coming in at number 8 is Crimson Stone by CONVERGE and Chelsea Wolfe. You know, that kind of a song that does definitely have that slightly alternative rock kind of a flavour to it, but it builds up really well. You know, it's a track which they tease you a bit almost with how it builds up, with Chelsea's kind of, you know, with those gorgeous kind of elegant vocals, the way it's placed in with the music and that drumming in particular creates that air of build up, you know, throughout, until you get more of a climax and more of the emphasis on the vocals, on everything, and the growls towards the end of the song, the harsh vocals even really come together really well with this track. It's just a great, and I think a kind of a beautiful, enchanting kind of a track as well. It's not super heavy, it's just one of those really enchanting sort of songs. Number 7 is Swallow the Sun's Keep Your Heart Safe From Me. This is just, for me, this is Swallow the Sun combining everything they do great together. You know, you start off with a riff which sounds like it could come straight off Morning Never Came. Then you get the great sort of great verse and chorus to this song. Wonderful vocals from Miko. Terrific solos from Yuha. And those kind of, that folky section towards the end gives you a bit of flavour from, if you're a Songs of the North fan like me, that second disc, it gives you a bit of a flavour of that as well. Number 6 is Rivers of Nihil's album closer, Terrestria 4 Work. To be quite frank, this album closer just might actually be, you know, I think it's actually my favourite track from the Work album, because again, a bit like with Swallow the Sun, this is kind of a Rivers of Nihil, combining all the best of them together. And of particular note in this track is that guitar solo that comes in about 7 or 8 minute mark, I think, towards the end. Super stuff, you know, absolutely crushes that song at the end, and really quite emotive and powerful in the way that Rivers of Nihil show that they can do time and time again at the moment. Really cool finisher. And I could listen to all of their Terrestria tracks all together in a playlist and just thoroughly enjoy them, I think. I've been meaning to do that, and I still haven't put them all together in a playlist. Anyway, coming up next, track number 5 is WOLFE Lipstick on the Glass. This is a little bit shoegazy, maybe, this track. I think the thing that I love about this are all the little vocal phrases that Ellie does, the singer, the lead singer, all the phrasing she does, and you know, the just gorgeous kind of nuances she does at the end of each of her lines and stuff. And I love the emphasis on the chorus at the end of this song. Right, it really nails the feel of the track to you in such a great way. Lipstick on the Glass, WOLFE at number 5. Number 4 is Thornwalker by MOURNING. Okay, it has that Ghost of Perdition style Opeth riff in it, which I adore, but then it also has those really impressive clean vocals that just soar in the really good moments of the track. I just think they're tied in so well with the track. And it's interesting the journey this track takes you on to go from that really heavy, OPEF riff to begin with, and then by the end of the track you get those beautiful melodies as well. So they're just so much to enjoy from that particular track for me. Coming in at number 3 is Revolution in Limbo by Between the Buried and Me. A BT Bam masterpiece from the start to the finish. And I'll tell you what the moment is on this track which left my jaw hanging, was the bit that goes all samba-y. It's like a samba bit of the song, and then it goes back into that melody on a sort of gentle, maybe it's like an acoustic, I'm not sure if it's an acoustic guitar, but it's a really gentle moment where they go back to that main melody, then into the chorus at the very end. And the chorus, just because you've had that diversion, the way they go back into that melody and chorus at the very end, I've maybe not got the musical theory knowledge to quite describe this perfectly, but it's just incredible. Number 2 is Ayrton's. Now, Ayrton, of course, were my album of the year, but didn't give them the song of the year, even though this is mind-numbingly brilliant. Layhem's Golden Pits. The great operatic vocals here really shine on this track. And now it's one of the shorter tracks on this album, so it might be a surprise I've gone for that. I love Safe Across the Endless Night as well, but it's just Layhem's Golden Pits just impacts you. Just really, really, 4 minutes of glorious. It's almost got a slightly power metal vibe, although there's a kind of death metal beginning to the track, and it kind of returns to really fast riffs. But yeah, that's sort of that chorus with the operatic vocals are what really steal this for me. And yeah, awesome track. Number 1 is MARE COGNITUM's ANTARESIAN. I think it's how you say that word, ANTARESIAN. The opening track on that album. And for me, Jacob Buczarski is really just, in this track, he pulls out all the stops with the, wonderful, that amazing black metal crushing rhythm throughout the track. All the extremely impressive guitar solos towards the ends, the way he uses those as the sort of melody over the really kind of crushing rhythms that go throughout the track. It's just an ace piece of music from the very start to the finish. And ANTARESIAN is my favourite song of 2021. Comes in at number 1. What a killer way to start the album. Killer. Anyway, before I get too carried away, I'm going to finish things there. This has almost been as long as my albums of the year, which was not my intention at all. It's like gone on for like 18 minutes now. Anyway, thank you as always for joining me. Do feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoy these kind of list type videos on rock and metal music or alternative. And I also do the odd bit of coverage on sci-fi, fantasy and horror stuff if that's your thing as well. Otherwise, take care everybody, enjoy your evenings, and bye for now.